10 men cross a river. On the far bank, the leader counts to make sure no one drown. He counts 9. He counts again. 9. The group mourns an unknown companion until a villager asks them to count again. This time aloud. The leader counts to 10 and stops in bewilderment. The villager says, "You are the 10th." The man was not missing. He was the one counting. He had been present in every count, enabling every count, and excluded himself from every count. His grief was real. The problem it was based on was not. This story is the heart of a specific frustration. You have been told, by scripture, by teachers, by tradition, that God is everywhere, in everything, at all times, not merely present in temples or sacred moments, but woven into every rock, every breath, every ordinary Tuesday. And yet when you look around, you see a table, a wall, traffic noise, a body that aches. You do not see God. The teaching seems either false, or the vision seems unavailable to you personally. The mind that hears God is everywhere begins scanning outward, expecting some quality of light to shift, some perceptual event to announce the divine presence. When nothing arrives, two conclusions seem available. Either God is not actually everywhere, or God is somewhere specific that you have not yet reached. Both conclusions preserve the same underlying assumption, that if God is present, you should be able to detect it the way you detect anything else real, through the senses, through some felt experience, through an event you can point to before and after which something changed. That assumption is the entire problem. In Sanskrit philosophical terms, the mind has framed God as a prameya, an object of knowledge, something that can be encountered, examined, and confirmed the way a sound is heard or a shape is seen. A prameya has location. It arrives within the field of experience and can be absent from that field and then present, closer and then farther. The moment you frame God as a prameya, you have committed to a search that cannot succeed, not because God is hidden or distant, but because the search is aimed in the wrong direction entirely. The teaching God is now here gets read as God is nowhere, not through willful misreading, but through a spacing error. The mind, accustomed to finding objects in the external world, concludes not found, therefore absent. The devotee waits for a divine arrival, a vision with color and form, some event in which God appears and the gap is finally closed. The gap never closes because it is a conceptual gap, not a spatial one. We search for God in the field of sensory objects, in experiences, in visions, in the sacred and separate realm mentally partitioned off from the ordinary world. This partition is the confusion, not its solution. Consider a person who loses a ring inside a dark house and searches for it outside under the street lamp because the light is better there. The ring is not missing, it is not where they are looking. No amount of intensity in the search under the street lamp will find what was never there to find. The error is not in the looking, it is in the location chosen for the looking. What Vedanta addresses is not whether God exists, but what kind of thing God is, and therefore what kind of search is appropriate. Most people have heard the phrase, God is everywhere, and repeated it, but the implicit picture behind it is almost always the same. God is a large, powerful being who has spread himself across the universe the way a person might spread jam across bread. He is here, he is there, he is at the bottom of the ocean in the far edge of the galaxy, but wherever he remains a thing separate from the bread. This picture is not Vedanta. Vedanta points to antarya mitva, the quality of being the inner controller, the indweller of everything. God is not a separate being who has moved inside things, but the very substance of what things are. As gold is not in the ornament, but is the ornament, completely, without remainder. A ring, a bracelet, a chain. We call them different things. Assign them different prices. Treat them as distinct objects. Strip away the names and forms, and what remains? Only gold. The ornaments are not gold-filled objects. They are gold, temporarily holding particular shapes. There is no boundary where the gold ends and the ornament begins. That is the relationship between God and the universe. The world is not something God created and then filled with his presence the way a builder fills a house with furniture. The world is a manifestation of God the way a wave is a manifestation of water. A wave has a name, a shape, a height, a direction of travel. Water has none of those things, yet the wave is nothing but water. Not water containing, not water powered, but water itself moving in a particular form. When the wave asks, "Where is the water?" the question has no coherent answer, because the wave has been looking for water among objects while being water entirely. The Vedic texts offer the image of the spider. A spider produces its web from within itself, moves through that web, and the web is made entirely of the spider's own substance. God is not a craftsman who stands outside creation and shapes it from foreign material. God is both the intelligence that designs creation, nimitta karanam, the intelligent cause, and the very substance from which it is made, upadana karanam, the material cause. A carpenter builds a table, but the wood was never the carpenter. God produces the universe the way a spider produces its web. The universe is not made by God from some other material. It is made of God. God is everywhere does not mean God is visited everywhere. It means there is nowhere that is not God, no object whose existence is other than God's existence, no event that takes place outside God's awareness, because existence itself and awareness itself are what God is. This is antaryamitva, not location but essence. If God is the very existence and consciousness pervading every single thing you have ever encountered, why has not one of those encounters ever felt like an encounter with God? The question sharpens, why? Standing inside this gold entirely, do we see only the shapes? The answer begins with what God actually is. The Upanishads describe Brahman, the ultimate reality, as Ashabdam, Asparsham, Aropam, Arasam, Agandham, without sound, without touch, without form, without taste, without smell. Every instrument your body possesses for gathering information, ears, skin, eyes, tongue, nose, works by detecting one of these five properties. Brahman has none of them. The senses are built for names and forms. The substrate beneath those names and forms is a gakaram, completely unavailable for sensory perception, by design, not by accident. Most seekers stop here and draw the wrong conclusion. Non-visibility is not non-existence. The oxygen in this room is uncolored, odorless, and silent. Your inability to see it does not empty the room. Brahman's inaccessibility to the senses tells us something about the senses. It tells us nothing about Brahman. Here Maya enters, not magic or illusion in a theatrical sense, but with a specific function. It's avarana shakti, its concealing power. What it conceals is not God's existence, but God's specific nature. Maya hides the Vishisha Amsha, the particular content of reality, which is that the existence pervading everything is limitless, whole, and conscious. What it leaves exposed is the Samayanya, the general isness that everything shares. Every object you encounter tells you, quietly, that it is. The table is. The wall is. You are. That bare isness is never hidden. It is the most obvious fact in every experience. But the particular truth of what that isness is, that it is one, undivided, infinite. And the nature of the very eye that is looking, that gets covered. You get the general disclosure but not the specific recognition. Look at your hand in sunlight. You see a hand, its color, shape, lines. You do not say, "I see light." Yet without the light, there is no hand visible at all. The light is doing everything, pervading the hand, making it available to the eye, and receives no mention. It is too immediate to be noticed. God's existence is similarly immediate, not absent from your experience, but so thoroughly present that it disappears into the background, the way light makes the hand visible while the hand collects all the attention. Maya's concealing power directs attention toward named, formed, distinct objects, while the formless existence underlying them all stays unregistered, unseen not because it is far, but because it is too close, too fundamental, the very medium of every experience, rather than one more experience within it. This is why the search for God as an external event, waiting for a luminous vision, a divine arrival, a special feeling that announces God's presence, is structured to fail. Maya is not concealing a hidden object that clever seeking might eventually locate. It is concealing the nature of what is already and always completely evident. The remedy is not sharper senses or a more intense search. The remedy is a different understanding of what you are already standing inside. Remove that concealment through understanding. And what stands revealed is not an object encountered, but a recognition about the one who has been looking all along. Every act of perception follows a fixed structure. There is a knower, an act of knowing, and an object known. You see a tree, you feel a sensation, you think a thought. In every case, something appears to you, which means you are always the one before whom things appear. Vedanta names this the drik, the subject, as distinct from drishya, the seen, meaning every object that can be perceived or cognized. Can the drik, the very one who is looking, ever become a drishya, an object that is seen? The eye sees everything in the room, the table, the wall, the light, the hands, but does not appear in its own field of vision. The camera photographs every object placed before it, but never appears in the photograph. The instrument of seeing cannot be among the objects seen, not because it is hiding, but because it is the condition that makes seeing possible at all. Every photograph is proof that the camera exists. The camera's absence from the picture is exactly what its presence makes possible. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad names this with 4 words: Adrishto drashta, the unseen seer, unseen not by accident, not because it is distant, but because it is the seer itself. To see it, you would need some further seeing faculty behind it. But the seer is already the most prior thing there is. There is nothing behind it to do the seeing. The mind is built to work with objects, to reach out, compare, locate, hold. When someone says God is everywhere, the mind scans the field of objects, looking for something that fills every space. It finds only things: trees, sky, thoughts, silence, but not God. The conclusion seems logical. Either God is absent, or God is too subtle to be found yet. Both conclusions keep the seeker searching outward. Vedanta makes a different move. The whole outward sweep of attention, every tree, every sensation, every thought you have examined, is the drishya, the field of the seen. Everything that has ever appeared to you belongs to this category, God as the ultimate subject. What Vedanta calls the drashta, the seer, is not in that field. It is prior to the field. It is what makes the field visible at all. Right now, you are aware. That bare fact of awareness is not itself an object you are looking at. You do not locate it to your left or right. You do not see it the way you see a word on a page. Yet it is undeniably present, more immediately present than anything you could point to. You cannot prove the seer does not exist, because the very act of attempting that proof requires the seer's prior presence. The question, does awareness exist, is itself an awareness. The seer is self-certifying in a way nothing else is. The body changes. The mind changes. Thoughts arise and dissolve. But the seer, the pure awareness before which all of this appears, has never been absent, has never been born, cannot be located, cannot be objectified. This is what was meant all along by God is everywhere. Not that God is spread thinly across space, but that the seer is present in and as every moment of knowing, inescapably, without exception. The confusion dissolves not by finding God somewhere you hadn't looked, but by recognizing what has never been absent from any moment of looking. The question shifts from where is God to what is it I am actually missing? The answer is not an experience. It is a recognition. Vedanta distinguishes between paraksha, remote knowledge, and aparaksha, immediate knowledge. In paraksha, one believes God is everywhere, holds it as a theological position, perhaps finds it comforting, but it remains conceptually distant, the way one knows the Andromeda galaxy exists without ever having seen it. Aparaksha is a recognition of what is self-evidently present right now, not a vision, not a feeling, not a mystical state that comes and goes. The shift from paraksha to aparaksha is not the acquisition of something new. It is the removal of a specific cognitive error. the way correcting the spacing in go to nowhere reveals what was already there. God is now here. What exactly does one recognize? The isness of everything. Every object you have ever encountered has two aspects: its particular name and form, this chair, this sound, this thought, and the bare fact that it is. The names and forms change constantly. The isness does not. That non-variable existence pervading every object, lending each one its simple fact of being, is not a property of the object. It is the same in the chair, in the sound, in the thought, in you who notices all three. That invariable existence is what the tradition points to when it says God is everywhere, not a divine glow added to objects, not a sacred atmosphere around them, but the bears, undeniable, is at the core of each one. The senses cannot perceive this because they are built to detect differences. This shape versus that shape. This sound versus silence. The isness is not a difference. It is the constant background against which all differences appear. A child standing in an empty hall says, "Nothing is here," having scanned the room for furniture. But the space that accommodates the furniture and the child's own movement through the room is not nothing. It is the most available thing in the hall, available precisely because it is everywhere, not located in one corner to be spotted. The child misses it not because it is hidden, but because the mind is trained to see objects, not the medium in which objects appear. The isness of the world is missed for the same reason. The mind moves from object to object, noting their differences, while the existence they all share goes unregistered. This is what the tradition calls Vishva Rupa Darshanam, seeing the universal form of the Lord, the ordinary universe, seen through the understanding that there is no world separate from God, that the wave is nothing but water in motion, that the ornament is nothing but gold in shape. This itself is the vision. The world does not transform. The understanding does. Once seen, it cannot be unseen. The Upanishads say so directly. The senses open toward the world, not toward their source. Every attempt to find God in the direction the senses point ends in the frustration we began with. The shift is not from one place to another. It is a turn, from scanning the objects of experience to recognizing the awareness in which those objects appear. The next question is the obvious one. Whose awareness is it? The standard spiritual assumption is that there are two distinct entities: you, the finite seeker, and God, the infinite sought. Your job is to locate the second through devotion, practice, or grace. This assumption feels self-evident because it matches every other project in life. You want something, it is elsewhere. You go get it. The spiritual life, on this model, is a more elevated version of the same structure. A jiva searching for something it does not yet have. This is precisely what the 10th man story dismantles. The man was not missing. He was the one counting. He had been present in every count, enabling every count, and excluded himself from every count. His grief was real. The problem it was based on was not. The witness, the pure consciousness that illuminates every thought, every perception, every act of seeking, has been present in every moment of the search, enabling every moment, and excluded from the count each time. The seeker looks out for God and misses that the looking itself is God. That awareness is not yours in the sense of belonging to you. You belong to it. It is the Sakshi, the unchanging witness in which every changing experience arises and dissolves. The 10th man's error was not that he miscounted. It was that he assumed the counter was just another object to be counted. You cannot find the Sakshi by looking for it because looking is what it does. Every act of searching is proof of its presence. The moment the search is recognized as the searched for, the particular jiva who was doing the searching does not disappear. The 10th man still stands on the bank, but his relationship to himself changes entirely. He is no longer a creature missing something. He is the fullness within which the appearance of lack arose. We do not see God as an external object because the one looking is what is being looked for. The Sakshi cannot be seen from the outside because there is no outside to it. Every perception, including the perception of this sentence, is its self-evidence.